It's a very fair question to ask, I think. How will the Eagles handle Chris Jones? Chris Jones, absolute star player and can really dominate opposing offensive lines. And so I want to talk about what Chris Jones does well, how the Eagles will counter it, and who I think is favored in that specific situation. Because obviously, Eagles' great offensive line, Chris Jones, maybe the best defensive player in football this year. You can make the argument. So let's see what happens on this play where he's going up one-on-one against a guard for the Raiders. Watch how when this play begins. I mean, you see that left arm and how he's able to get it on the guard's right arm right there. That's what Chris Jones does so effectively. I mean, really, he does everything so effectively. He's incredibly explosive, incredibly strong, but his hands are the thing that really puts him to that next level. Is, sometimes you see some of these stars really just kind of be able to get away with whatever they want, so they don't learn the technique. Chris Jones knows the technique. Chris Jones knows how to do this stuff, and that's what makes him so effective. The issue for 64 for Las Vegas here is that where do you want to get your right arm? You want to get it on Chris Jones' sort of left side of his body, right? That kind of like the left, pec area. That would be ideal. Push him back. That's how you can get the leverage. But if you can't get your hand there, how are you realistically going to be able to stop Chris Jones? So you see right here now, Jones is able to kind of get that hand really just completely out of the way. And here's where Jones can now attack again, where what he's going to do, it's going to be now his right arm. He's going to do what you call a rip move, where he's going to get it underneath the guard's right arm. Watch how he pulls that off. He's able to completely get by, gets there for a sack. Really good stuff from Chris Jones, and this is just what he does consistently, is if you leave him one-on-one, he just wins those matchups. That's traditionally how it goes. And even stuff like this. So what do you have to do? Okay, you have to double him, right? But he can find ways to win against double teams as well. The Raiders have a center who, can block wherever he wants, but let's be real, when there's Chris Jones on one side of the field, that is where you're looking towards. But watch what Chris Jones does. Watch how he's going to really just try to go to the right guard's right. At this point, the center would have to really pull over if he's going to be able to impact this play at all, and it's just smart football of understanding where the help is coming from and going to the other direction of it, to where now Jones can say, hey, that rip move worked last time. Getting my right arm kind of underneath worked last time. This time it's not really a rip move, but he still gets the arm underneath, and he's able to, again, help get a sack there on that play. Really good stuff from Chris Jones, and this is just what he does. He's a factor. He's someone that when you play against, you always have to be focused on. But can this Eagles' great offensive line do a good job at blocking it? Well, I think so, actually. Like, this is an example of what they were able to do against another elite interior defensive lineman, Jeffrey Simmons, who is just he's a star. He's absolutely one of the best defensive tackles in football. So, I'd take Chris Jones over him, but it's not, I think Simmons is still incredibly good and definitely a star player, but the Eagles can find ways to take that guy out of the play because they have 5 really good offensive linemen. The 2 players who will be blocking Simmons on this play are Jason Kelsey and Landon Dickerson, so watch what they're going to do on him. Look at how when this play begins, they do a good job of really taking him out of the play. And even the left tackle on this play, that's Jordan Mailata, he's even gotten to the action a little bit. So they're making sure they put a lot of effort in blocking Simmons. So, okay, this means that someone else can potentially do well, right? You have now, 3 one-on-one matchups. One should be favorable because Mailata even bumped into Simmons a little bit. So with one of those 3 one-on-one matchups, maybe you can come through for Tennessee. The issue is that you see, just looking around, that's not happening because you have to find a way now to get, pressure on either Isaac Samulo. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but he's a very good guard. Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata. They have 5 offensive linemen who are close, they're just star players. So it's so hard to find a way to get pressure on this team. Now, again, definitely, I think that, the Chiefs have some guys that I like better. Like, they have Carl Loftus, they have Frank Clark. I think they're better in that category than the Titans are. The Titans really are just Simmons, wrecking havoc, essentially, and then other guys being able to come through. But still, it just goes to show what they're going up against. Now, you can try to find pressure in other ways, something like this, where it's going to be a stunt, right? So stunt with the defensive tackles. Defensive tackles are essentially going to shift positions here, is the kind of the way to think about it. They're both going to twist over. Hopefully you get someone out of position. Hopefully you can potentially get a straight shot to the quarterback, something like that. However, again, when this play begins, look at how good of a job this interior offensive line is doing for Philadelphia. There is just nothing there. And again, when that happens, okay, are Jordan Mailata or Lane Johnson going to give up pressure? Probably not. Those guys typically win. So the reality is, and this is just true in football in general, when good defensive linemen go up against good offensive linemen, typically the offensive linemen win. And as you see on this one, again, Hurts was able to get the throw away, so they weren't able to generate pressure the way that they wanted to. And so that's just another thing where it's just hard to get pressure on this team. It really is, especially from the inside. Actually, I say that, but it's also hard to get it from the outside. You can't really get pressure against the Eagles. It just doesn't happen. But what about something like this? Okay, listen. It's hard to get pressure on this team, but the Chiefs don't just rush for every play. Despite what people will tell you about Steve Spagnuolo, he's always been a guy who likes to blitz. And, in that Super Bowl against the Patriots, they actually blitzed a lot in that game. There's a false narrative that they only got pressure with 4. This is a team that will dial up blitzes to try to generate pressure. I suspect they will try that in this game. The issue is, I feel like the Eagles have been relatively good at blocking it. Not perfect, but they've been okay at picking up blitzes. Again, part of it is you see this situation, the blocking concept on the screen, where each of the offensive linemen have a one-on-one matchup. Mailata's the left tackle. His is off screen right now, but they all have a one-on-one matchup. So then what happens there, where if that player for Tennessee comes in and rushes the passer, well, now Sanders, the guy who I've circled in black, he has to make the block himself. So now you have to have a halfback who can pick it up. The thing is, I feel like the Eagles have been pretty good at picking this stuff up this season. Look at how when you see, right here, Hurts is getting ready to make this throw, does a good job of noticing the blitz and throwing the ball quickly, which he does a pretty good job of. But still, we are talking over 2.5 seconds into the play at this point, and you see, there's just no pressure on him, despite the fact that it was almost like a 6-man rush at this point. This is just a really good job by the Eagles of picking up this blitz. And this is even with a situation like Simmons, where typically blitzes are harder to pick up when you're putting a lot of attention on one specific defensive lineman. But here, it still was not an issue. Hurts had the time to make the throw, and now he's just able to go over and make a touchdown to A.J. Brown, because if you blitz, now you're leaving A.J. Brown one-on-one, so good luck with that. The reality is, this is a team that will have time to throw in this game. The Chiefs might be able to get some stuff going. I don't think that's out of the question, but will it be Chris Jones that's going to just take over in this game? There's no reason for me to believe that. If he did, it would be one of the most impressive performances I've ever seen, because typically when you go up against an offensive line like this, one player can't just wreak havoc. It takes more than that. Could maybe some of the other pass rushers come through? Potentially, and maybe that's a video for later on before the Super Bowl. I'm sure, got to make a lot of videos leading up to the Super Bowl. Maybe it's not a bad idea. But in terms of the Chris Jones factor, I'm not saying he'll be a non-factor, but I don't think he'll be as big of a factor as maybe he has been in previous games and maybe how he typically is. I do actually think the Eagles I think they can hold their own against him. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.